Women in Gaming: The Rise of the Female Player in Africa.
Yeah, look, we are on stage as Women in Gaming Africa. It's our first panel, but we're not going to do the normal thing of talking about women in the industry. We're actually going to be talking about women players. So I am going to ask the ladies just to introduce themselves so you get a bit of background about where they come from, so that when they're answering, you understand the kind of data and information they have. So I'm going to hand over to Maya.
Hey everyone, I'm Maya. I've been in the betting industry, I think, for the last 9 years. But specifically in the affiliate marketing industry for about 7 years. And obviously, like, this is my passion, I've realized. And I've tried leaving the sporting betting industry or the gaming industry, but it's just so boring. Like, no.
Great, and we'll pass over to Borah to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Lois. My name is Borah, Omary Ndanyungu. I work for betPawa, a sports betting brand operating across 17 African markets. I'm the East Regional Manager for new markets and campaigns, so responsible for planning all the marketing strategies in Eastern Africa. Thank you.
Thanks. And then Siphindile.
Yes, hi. Evening, or afternoon, everyone, sorry. Said evening. My name is Siphindile Msani. I am from Johannesburg. I work for Kiron Interactive, which is a global games provider. We specialize in mostly virtual games and also venturing into crash games and instant games. My history in the industry, it's a nice one because I did sports management at school and then I ended up working in operators end and now in providers end. So it's an industry like Maya that I love very much that I do not see myself leaving. Thank you.
Awesome. So, like I said, we are going to be speaking about the rise of the female player, specifically in Africa. So, and we had quite an interesting conversation before we got onto stage, and I heard things that blew my mind. So I'm hoping you're going to get your minds blown too. So I'm going to kick off with Maya. Maya, you obviously have been working mainly operator side, so you've got access to data, which obviously you're going to share with us today in terms of the rise of the female player. So what are we seeing in terms of the demographic of players? Maybe you can give us a bit of info in terms of like statistics about female players in Africa.
We have definitely seen an increase on the rise of female players specifically. I think it's also a thing of women obviously trying to test out what men's been doing. Because if you think about it, betting and gambling has always been a male-dominated market. I think in the last 6 months, we have concluded, well, basically, I would say, which has confirmed in the last few weeks that we currently, as 1EO Bets 22, we have had a rise of 61% female players, which obviously is focused more on the crash games, which is instant, the casino games, which are instant. We've also picked up that through the statistics of the week, we'll see women that are playing specifically between noon and evening, so up until 6 p.m., and then that's obviously when responsibilities are kicking in. But yes, there is a rise of female players, and obviously whoever is here looking for something new, I would suggest that this become a focus.
Yeah, I mean, that 61% is insane. Why do you think it's such a sharp rise? What do you think has impacted that rise of women players?
I think a lot of the casino content that are being pushed out, obviously, like, it's doing things via social media. You've got like someone you follow on Instagram that's, for an example, promoting a betting platform. And because you follow them, I'm like, oh, let me check what Lois is doing with them, you know? And then you end up, oh, I'm actually enjoying this. And then the next thing, you got a betting account.
That's amazing. So then you're obviously looking at statistics now presumably for South Africa.
Yes, South Africa.
And I know you have worked in the African market as a whole, but then Borah, so you're obviously coming from East Africa because you head up the marketing side of things for betPawa in the East. What kind of trends are you seeing with female players specifically in East Africa that you might think might be different from other locations?
I think crash games are popular in eastern part of Africa because they're easy to use. Most of women don't want complications, you know. They want user-friendly games that they can easily win their money, you know, that they can easily engage with, you know. That's the only thing I can say about eastern part. Like crash games are very popular from that side. Yeah.
Okay, nice. And then Sippy, like, you know, you're coming from the game provider perspective. So what are you seeing from a trend perspective where if this information has been fed back to you by operators, are operators asking for games to be more female focused? And what is a business like Kiron, for example, doing to kind of support that rise of the female player in Africa?
So I think as a game provider, and for all game providers, I think the one thing that we have to focus on is what operators are asking for based on what customers want. So what we're seeing now is that, or what we need to do as game providers is that we need to then start designing games that will actually cater to the female player. So you look at games like crash games, you look at games like your slot and casino games, whether it's lucky number games, games that women will be interested in. Because when you look at the female player, it's someone who's going to want instant gratification. They're going to want something that's simple to play. Something like, for example, if you look at sports betting, where there's a lot of information that you require to have and understand before making your selection. Or also there's that information about odds and stake, whereas a female player wants something that's simple and easy to understand. So we see now that, for example, us at Kiron, what we're doing is we're also now, to cater to the female player, we're creating games like crash games, instant games, and also aggregating content that is slots and casino games to actually cater to the operator and provide those games for the female player.
Yeah, amazing. And I think the other thing that we all touched upon is obviously the rise of technology and the uptake of people with smartphones, access to internet and data. Do we think that this rise of the female player is going to continue? And what do we think? Do we think that operators are actually, I don't know, are operators actually listening, and are they actually going to start looking at the female player as being a serious player? I know that we've talked about this. So, Borah, I'm going to direct this one to you because you were talking about technology and how you're seeing that that's changing the kind of patterns of players. What would you say that has done in East Africa specifically in terms of the technology front?
The rise of mobile accessibility, you know, and internet penetration in Eastern Africa is one of the causes of the rise in the female players because people have access to smartphones. They are not expensive. Nowadays, we have brands that are affordable, and most of the people can afford to buy them. So through those smartphones, they can easily engage with on social media platforms, you know, and then they get to know awareness of those crash games. They get to know them. Then it's easy for the women to engage and also play. So advancement of technology, especially the mobile accessibility, plays crucial role in the rise of female players in East Africa.
And do you think that, like, for example, you work at arguably one of the biggest operators on the continent. So do you think that operators are doing enough to actually target those female players? Or do you think as operators they could be doing more?
I think we need to do more. So I'll give an example of marketing strategies that we're using to engage more female players, you know, and then this is focusing more on influencers marketing, you know. So when you use influencers, sometimes you check and engage content creators who are female, you know, and this helps a lot in terms of engaging more players to join the platforms and actual play. So influencers and content creators who are female, I think the operators we need to do more there, and that's what we're also trying to do. Especially when we are doing product promotions that are like, for example, crash games. And then this also differ when it comes to regulations because each market has their own regulations. So, and then the marketing strategies that you're going to implement in these markets also are going to differ. So there are some markets where you're allowed to do out-of-home advertising. Some of the markets you're not allowed to do out-of-home advertising. So strategy differs. Some markets where you're not allowed to do out-of-home marketing, the only thing we focus on is on content creators and influencers that we will engage on, who are female. And also, when we have winners who are female, we really amplify those stories, you know? Yeah. We just need to show the female, like we have female winners who are actually winning. So when we have female winners, we really amplify the story, making sure that the news goes out there, using radios, but also even SMS marketing. Like you need to mention, like let's say Borah won big, something like that. So amplifying winner stories that feature women also is really helping a lot in that part of the region.
Yeah, that's really interesting you're saying about the fact that you're shining that spotlight on. All three of us were talking about, or four of us, shall I say, were talking about the fact that Bet King rebranded for International Women's Day to Bet Queen, which we just thought was amazing. So there obviously is, there are businesses that are doing their bit. We obviously need to do more. Maya, you've mentioned that like the demographic is between 18 and 35. Why do you think that it's those specific age groups rather than maybe older people? What do you think the reason is for that?
I think obviously if you're looking at the generations, okay, if I take it anything after 35, you were brought up in a generation where you were taught that betting and gambling is for guys and not for females. So, I mean, times have changed, and I think from a operator's perspective, I would really like them, CP and them over there, to look at something like, you know, like a aviator, crash game, like Powerpuff Girls, because that is speaking to the 35, 30 generation, if I can put it that way. So like a Powerpuff, you choose, I'm sure that everyone had one. Like I'm this one, I'm Buttercup. You know, I think it would be really cool. But yes, 18 to 35, and obviously whoever is behind the 18s we are still going to grow in that market as well.
Yeah, and then you also mentioned earlier about influencer marketing. And I think that that's quite interesting how we see the rise of social media playing a part in the uptake of female players. What do you think businesses are doing well, and what do you think businesses could be doing better?
Like Borah was saying, like amplifying women winners. I mean, how many times have you gone onto a social platform where they've announced a winner, but it's male? So it's almost like, oh, you know, ladies can't win. There's no opportunity for ladies to win, or like your luck is just not there. So I think the amplifying thing, and obviously also penetrating the social media with more female influencers, you know, because obviously we'll go for like a famous soccer player, but we'll also go like for a mummy that's just trying to, you know, make a win.
Yeah. So then I'm really interested to know, CP, do you think that there will be, have you had a lot of operators that are already looking to tap into this female first market? Or is it just, is it just a few? Is it just a select few?
No, so I think what we've seen over the years is that there is an interest in women that are interested in gaming and gambling. Like Maya mentioned, that it's a 61% increase, right? Where more women are growing and women are betting. So there is a need. Operators are aware of this. And our responsibility now as the game providers is to cater to the female player. So some examples of stuff we can do is, for example, when you understand a female player is someone who's going to place lower bets than a male player, for example. So the bets are going to be calculated in the sense that it wouldn't be something that would be maybe we spend more money on a bet, but women will spend less, but for longer. So then how are we making our games engaging in that case? So this you can use with promo tools. For example, doing leaderboards and tournaments where women are engaging with other players, where you've seen, for example, Aviator introduce reigns, where it has allowed players to actually share winnings with each other and actually gift other players with reigns to actually engage in those games. Also, because a female player is playing because they want to win. I mean, every player is playing because they want to win. But, but I think on our end, when we're configuring these games, is to actually bear that in mind. By also, I mean, with the configuration maybe of the RTP, to like say we want more female winners, and we know the games they like playing. So we maybe give that customer a chance to actually win also. For example, with RTP again, with the lowest stakes, again making the games socially engaging with the use of promo tools. Was that time or was that?
No, we've still got 4 minutes.
Oh,
left.
okay, yeah. But yeah, so that is what we, our responsibility is. And because we've seen that operators are asking for it, operators are aware of the growth of the female player, we just need to provide that to them also.
Yeah, interesting. The other thing that you said to me, because I think I said at the start of this, or some things that you guys said that kind of blew my mind. You said the female players want to play games that are fair.
Yes.
So that's something
Yes.
else that I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah, so I've got experience also dealing with VIP clients. So of course the ratio will be 70% more male, 30% female. It was normally like that. But one thing I've always noticed where a query or a complaint that is responsible gambling related is mostly from a female player than a male player. So we want to have games that are fair also. So women will question games if they feel unfair more than males. So that is also, again, another responsibility of ours, is that to actually provide games that are fair to the female player. Yeah.
Yeah, really interesting. And then I think the other thing we probably need to touch upon is that why are there more women playing? And I'm just going to throw this out here, and maybe you've all got, because you're going to have way more data than me. Do you think it's also because there's the rise of women in roles where they're getting paid more, where they have more disposable income? So therefore, they have got the disposable income to be able to play on these games. Do we think that's impacted, like the rise of women in Africa in general? Do you think that's impacted the rise of women players? Or what do you think, Maya? I can see your mind thinking.
Definitely. I also think that obviously going 20 years back, no one actually knew someone in the gaming industry that was female, you know? For an example, I'm the first person or the only person in my close-knit family that is in gaming. So I'm educating other women about it. So I think that's also, it's got an effect as well.
Yeah, definitely has to. And what do you think, Borah? Because obviously you're coming from Tanzania. So do you see that there's the rise of women with disposable income is impacting the amount of women players we have on your sites?
Yeah, sure, it's true. And I think when you have women, it's really easy for them to know how to communicate with women when it comes to playing. So if you have more women in roles that plays part in terms of like product marketing, product development, you know, it's easy for them to like give inputs and make sure that we are building products that are tailor-made for women. And also, for example, if I'm a woman who is doing marketing, you know, it's easy for me to know how to communicate to the female players than a man who is in a role. Like when you tell a man to maybe create a campaign focusing on female players, it will take time for him to come up with an idea. But for me, it's going to be very easy to know how I can like come up with plans and strategies to communicate these campaigns to the female audience. So I believe like the more women that we have in this in the industry is also helping in the rise of female players.
Definitely agree with that one. Okay, we have a minute left, so I'm going to ask you all to summarize. If you could give one piece of advice to people sitting in the audience who are maybe thinking, actually, I need to start looking at what we're doing to attract more female players, what would it be? So, Sipi, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think if one piece of advice I will say is the industry is forever changing. As game providers, we need to adapt to the change as soon as possible. So taking the time to understand what the operator wants and also making the changes that come within the industry. So adapting to change from understanding what your operator needs is quite important. And that's the one thing I can say in order for us all to be successful. Yeah, I think I'll just say that. I think it's just adapting to change, definitely.
And Borah, what do you think?
I would say when we are planning to do marketing strategies in terms of promoting products, we also need to look into using, when it comes, for example, for influencers, we also need to focus into using female influencers, content creators, sports analysts, because we already have a lot of male players anyway, So right now, I think if we've seen brands in, for example, Tanzania, use visuals that features female models to promote crash games, I think that's something that operators should also focus on. Like when it comes to visuals, influencers, but also radio ads, like you can use a voiceover artist who is a female. So this will definitely help you to also engage the female players and like make sure that they engage with your products and they also cause the rise, because it's easy to be motivated when you hear a female like doing a radio ad or is on a billboard. You'll definitely convinced to say, oh, okay, let me also like join and try it, So that's the only thing I can say.
Amazing, thank you. And then Maya, what are your parting words?
I would say get a crash game around Powerpuff Girls. Let them choose someone and be a Powerpuff Girl. I'll get my dividends.
I love it. You heard it here first. If we see a Powerpuff Aviator game or Crash game starting, we know it was Maya's. So thank you, ladies, for this. I think it was really interesting and it could carry on. I just hope that there are operators out here that know that there is a big need for female-focused games, and we maybe are the future. So thanks, everyone. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.